formally recognize this operator when he returns from vacation. Okay. Thanks.
One-year-old Rontrell Smith is being a little tighter by his parents this week after he wandered away from their Mulberry home. Fortunately, Citrus Connection paratransit operator Pedro Gonzalez is always aware of his surroundings and found the child near the shoulder of the road. Here is that story.
Anything could have happened. And then it was like, I was kind of like, I was just thinking about it over the last couple of days, and I'm like, I'm just so grateful because I'm not mourning my son, or I'm not trying to search for him still. He's
Sorry. Here's on his way. Okay. There we go.
A one-year-old Rontrell Smith is being held a little tighter by his parents this week after he wandered away from their Mulberry home. Fortunately, Citrus Connection paratransit operator Pedro Gonzalez is always aware of his surroundings and found the child near the shoulder of the road. Here is that story.
But anything could have happened. And then it was like, I was kind of like, I was just thinking about it over the last couple of days, and I'm like, I'm just so grateful because I'm not mourning my son, or I'm not trying to search for him still. He's here with me, all because of somebody, took the time out to say, where's his mom? Where's his dad? And he's one. So anything could have happened to him.
No, I was just heading to drop off my last client that day. I was in a neighborhood in Mulberry. So I got out from Compass Apartments, and then I make a right turn on Northwest Avenue, Northwest 9th Avenue. Then I look to my left, and on this side of the road, there was a kid. So I stopped the bus, I put my flashes and got off of the bus. And then I look around, and I realized there was nobody with the kid. So I took it with me, and then I followed the procedure. So I was out of the bus, I activated my phone, and then I called dispatcher. I let them know what's going on, what was happening. So dispatcher told me to stay there, and they were going to call the authorities. I was with the kid for about 10, 12 minutes until father came out. And then I saw the kid went to the father, so probably, I was sure it was his father. So I asked the father to stay with me until the police could come. That's what happened.
But I didn't check and see if the door was closed all the way. It was open a little bit, and he's starting to open the room doors if they're cracked. So the front door was cracked, and he walked outside. And when my son came in, he was like, RJ, and Dad jumped up and was like, where's RJ? And he ran out the house, and that's when the bus driver, the Citrus Connection bus driver, he was holding RJ, and he said he had found him. And it was like, I didn't, because Dad was outside pretty long, so I'm like, what's going on? So I had jumped up and came, because I was like, is he looking for him or what? But when I seen the Citrus Connection bus driver have him, and Dad was talking to him, I was like, okay, nothing happened. I was relieved because there's so many kids going missing, or they're passing away because they walk out the door. And for the Citrus bus connection driver to stop and get him, that was like, okay. And then he just, he called, he was trying to find out who he belonged to and everything. It all happened so quick. So anything could have happened,
As a professional driver, we are trained for that. We have to be looking forward on the sides, the clearance of the height too, and then the backwards. So it's like a basketball player, you have to have a whole vision of the game. That's the way we drive. Sure, I was going to stop. I don't know what was going to happen if I was not at the right moment at the right place. So I was there. That's the point. We never know. And it could be animals, it could be another car, it could be sets of furniture. You never know.
I don't know what could have happened if that driver would have never stopped. I mean, it was people, and it was other people outside. So they didn't stop, and he actually stopped his bus and came. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. And please continue to do what you're doing. It was a blessing. Because like I said, we could have been mourning him or still looking for him or anything. And, just to have him back, I just was, it's just been a blessing. Even though we got to go through other stuff, but it's fine as long as he's safe.
I did something great, something very important in my life. It's going to mark a point in my life, a day in my life. So, and for the family too. Can you imagine if I'm not there, if I don't stop, nobody knows. He can go everywhere, nobody knows what it could happen at that time.
Good. So you'll be here at the next meeting?
You'll be here at the next meeting to be recognized. He's currently on vacation out of the country, which seems to be a trend when we want to recognize people. Mr. Canarium just returned from the Caribbean safely, so and he was out of town, so we continue that trend. But Pedro truly is the best of us, and that was excellent. This was one of our vehicles that did not have the forward-facing camera on it because it was one of our smaller buses. I firmly believe if we had had video footage of this incident, it would be national news. But this is excellent that it turned out well for the family member, and truly Pedro just took that training that we gave him, and as he said, like a basketball player, just did exactly what he needed to do with the present. So we appreciate him.
Good. We can move on to the LAMCAD financials and cover anything that does not need an approval at present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have the April 2019 financial statement for Lakeland Area Mass Transit District that represents 58% of the fiscal year. Looking at total revenues, the receipt is 6.9 million or 110%. Expenses are 5 million or 80% of the year-to-date budget. The fare box revenue continued to lag a little because of declining ridership. We have received our contract revenue from RAMCO 100%, and on our ad valorem we have received 98%. We are lagging in the 5307 operating grant because we still don't have permission to make draws. So the revenues are favorable. There's no significant deviation from the budget. And looking at expenses, likewise, expenses are just 80% of the year-to-date budget. The major expenses are salaries and benefits, which is 13% on our budget, fuel expenses, which is on our budget, and materials and supplies on our budget. Looking at a change in financial condition, the revenues are over expenses 1.9 million. So we do have favorable cash flow and we were within the budget. For LAMCAD, any questions?
Any thoughts on why fare boxes declined?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, we discussed this last month as well. So this was the initial implementation of the smart card. And so the $2 purchase that the majority of our clients and riders had to make was put into fare box revenue. So we'll make sure that with the declining revenue, excellent, Mr. Mayor Mutz is here. With the declining revenues, we'll make sure that the fare box revenue matches up. But a large portion of that is the purchase of the smart cards, which was a one-time purchase.
So we had excess last month. We're under this month.
Correct. No, we were under last month as well.
Yes, we were.
Correct. But it came up last month during the financials.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
The next financial statement is for the full county agreement for transit services. Looking at the revenues, the year-to-date revenue is 3.9 million or 101%, and that's because of the grants match from the county, 1.6 million. Again, on the FTA grant, we are being able to draw because we are drawing on the 5307 for prior year. So that makes the revenues favorable. Expenses likewise are within the budget, 3.6 million compared to a budget of 3.9 million. And all the expenses are favorable, except for the contract revenues, which is for the links contract.
I apologize.
But we do have grants to fund those overage. So overall, the budget is, the actual is within the budget.
Okay.
Any questions?
And fuel is still on the consortium and we get favorable pricing there.
Yes, we are on the HART PSTA Hillsborough County
Fuel concern.
Consortium. So we pay effectively the rack, I believe it's 0.001%
Over the
over the rack price. The county also purchases on that as well. We shared that information with the county. The county now purchases on that. I believe a large part of their fuel on that contract because of the pricing. And we shared that as well a few years ago with the Polk County School Board. And the school board, that's one of their most competitive pricing contracts. But they have to buy from a variety of sources due to, I guess, what they experienced when the hurricanes came through a few years ago and Polk was really socked. They wanted to make sure that they have a variety of sources.
Okay.
However, our consortium does provide for transit agencies in our contract to get fuel before other entities get fuel. We are not at the Citrus Connection is not at the top of the list. The counties are at the top of the list, but then the transit agencies. So we should get deliveries quicker. But as many of you remember who were on the board when the hurricanes came in a few years ago, we were about 2 days away from having to cease operations due to diesel fuel. We were okay on unleaded, but we couldn't get diesel fuel. And I believe everyone was in the same position because nothing could get in to the port of Tampa to unload.
Okay.
All right, the next financial statement is for the countywide transportation disadvantage. As you all know, this program is funded 90% by the state with a 10% match from the county. The fiscal year runs July through June. Year-to-date revenues are favorable and expenses are likewise favorable. There is no county obligation, district obligation for this program, so we are within the budget.
Question? Okay.
The next report is for approval of the fiscal year 2020 transportation disadvantage budget. Again, the fiscal year runs from July to June, so we are presenting a balanced budget of 1.4 million. Did I miss one?
Yes. I have the bus and bus facilities grant D first.
Which pages?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next report is for an approval of a grant application for the district for FTA 5339 funding. We are looking at 2 buses and some other technology to go with the bus. The funding is 80% from the FT and 20% that we are using toll credit for. There's actually no obligation from the district. The total applied for is 1.8 million.
Question? This is an approval item. If you have any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And the next item is approval for the transportation disadvantage budget. The fiscal year starts in July and ends in June. The total budget is 1.4 million, of which 1.34 is coming from the state and 0.14 million is coming from the county match. There are 15 authorized positions, and we are seeking approval of another position to bring the total authorized position to 16. And we have all the detailed expenses attached to the report. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Prasad?
No.
No questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next report is the approval of an RFP that was issued for shelters and pad installation for transit services for the district. These are all funded by grants, and we do have some third-party contracts that are fully funded by private developers who want to add shelters. We are seeking board approval for $470,000. We're trying to expedite this program to ensure that we can install the shelters and the pads. So we are asking for board concurrence, and we'll come back with an acknowledgement. It's all 80% federally funded and 20% local match, $470,000.
That's 33 pad locations, but only 14 bus shelters, right?
Yes, sir. And we'd like to thank our partners at the city. I wish Chuck Barnby were here to continue to thank the progressive nature of both the county on the east side of the county, but the city of Lakeland as well. When developers like Audi come in, when Starbucks moves to a new location on Florida Avenue, requiring them to add shelters or pads. And then although it's not included in this, the progressive nature of the county, and when malls are opened or those types of things, Posner Park being the most notable, that the county effectively required them to build a East Polk County transit facility for us. And so we thank all of our board members for that continued progressive nature of that. But as Mr. Prasad said, we're asking for this to be expedited because Audi has been open, as you know, for a while, and we've been sitting on their cash for the shelter, so we want to get their pads in as quickly as possible.
This is an approval item. Any questions?
Well, somewhere in this document, and I'm trying to find it and I can't, there was a 450 limit in it, I thought. And so I just want to make sure we were in sync, but I'm trying to show.
Not to exceed 470.
Or 470.
If I may, the 450 was on the draft award analysis, because we're still under doing our responsiveness review. So the 450 is for the intended awarding and now for the public bid opening.
You said this sheet, the award analysis sheet.
Got it.
That's where it is.
That's where it was. All right.
Okay.
I see it now.
Any further questions? Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to go back, we could do approval item A and B. Under one.
Yes, please.
I move to approve the minutes.
And I second that. So that's not to be shot at.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And then item B. What is that?
A motion to approve item 1B.
Okay. All right. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. And now we are
Aye.
legal.
Bye-bye.
All right, good morning. We have two items for approval today. The first is a universal access service agreement between the district and Peace River. This is simply a continuation of what we've been doing already. In Exhibit A, it lists the specific programs that the 300 users that are funded by Peace River are allowed to use the funded transit service. I believe the only difference in this agreement is that it's 3 years as opposed to one, as they're becoming more comfortable. And with the extension of the agreement, we won't have to do this every year about this time. So the cost is the same at this point. The ridership numbers are the same as well.
Approximately 2/3 of the 300 users are the Club Success drop-in members who utilize the service to get to and from that center on a daily basis. And if you haven't been there, it's
Great.
absolutely an inspiring place to be, and they welcome any of us for lunch any day of the week, and it's very affordable. It's made by the members.
Good. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Motion for
Second.
approval and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the second item is Resolution 19-18, which is essentially just an addition of lands as is required for the properties located at 8100 and 8164 State Road 33 North, also known as the Riverstone Project. This is the standard agreement. Once this is discussed and approved, then it will go to the city for an ordinance, and then they will be included on the tax roll.
Any discussion on that?
Motion to approve.
Absolutely. Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion.
Yeah. So when you say it's mandated, who do we have to adhere to? Is that a state?
As far as within development, if you're within the district and you develop, then the city typically requires that
Okay.
they join the district.
Oh,
Be
okay.
subject to the tax. Now, if it's a not-for-profit, Salvation Army, no. This also does not guarantee service.
Right.
As the routes change, as we might discuss later, certainly they may have service, but it's not a guarantee, but it's a city requirement
Okay.
to be subject to the district's ad valorem tax.
Great. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 6.
Joe, you're up. Oh, sorry.
The item we have before you is an authorization to accept the transfer of Link's assets. Currently, we have accepted Link's assets, buses. We're up to 7 right now. This would push us to 9. Basically, we have the bus and put it back in service with an expected life of at least 5 years. So this has worked pretty well for us, and we're eliminating and reducing our dependency on high flow buses with wheelchair lifts and going to low flow buses with ramps. So I think it's worked well for us, and I recommend approval.
Joe, would you like to just, in complete transparency, just give the board an update on the situation at least?
Email from Lynx this morning indicated that their decision to dispose of the buses may be delayed by 2 to 3 weeks. And what's going to typically happen is that they'll go through an exercise. The requirement for transfer of assets, FTA assets, is that this board needs to approve it, the Lynx board needs to approve it, and then the complete package needs to go to the FTA for their approval. I'm not sure what's happening internally with them, but typically, once they get to an expensive engine repair, they would probably forego and let it go. From our perspective, we do the expensive engine repair, rebuild the transmission, change out all the seating, put the new operator seat in, install the electronics package, and for roughly about $83,000, we are up and running. So I'm not sure what else is happening at Lynx because I've just got the email. I haven't actually talked to them just yet. And that happened this morning.
So is the vulnerability that they may decide not to sell the buses because they can rehab them? Is that what you're saying?
That is possible, unlikely.
Got it.
They had a rehab project when I was working there several years ago, and it wasn't working well, so I shut it down. The rehab project does work well here, and it's a financial benefit to us. I'm not so sure it would work there. But they have an interim executive director at this point, and their direction is probably not clear.
Got it.
Further question?
Yeah.
A motion to accept. Do we have a motion on this?
Do we need
An
to,
action
it is
item?
an approval item, yes, sir.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Are we now down to item 7?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Dunn, Mr. Sims?
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor.
We're a little disappointed there's not canes and hats.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is board permission, and we executed a testing the fund process. The purpose, the express purpose of that process over the last 2 months was to produce those route changes. What you see before you is just a prototype system guide of those changes defined, derived from all the inputs of the community stakeholders, riders, each of the agency. And we are recommending
We've had tests on this one. Do we have any comment?
Yes, sir. So, again, the conclusions and sample size is up on the board. The board has, this agenda item is called reconfiguration of Lakeland intercity routes. What we're really seeking today is approval to implement Reroute 2020. So if you'd like, James or Mr. Sims can go over, Mr. Phillips or Mr. Sims can go over the data, but I'd really truly like to thank the board. This was a one-of-a-kind opportunity, regardless of what you decide today. We met as a senior leadership team. I don't know of another transit agency in the United States, and I truly mean this, that would have allowed for this public of a testing. Ultimately, because if people liked it and you say no, then there's a large political risk to that. So the fact that you even embarked upon this, but this represents 60 days of testing all of our different colored routes and 2 Super Saturdays where we ran 2 iterations of the system as it would look. We were able to be statistically significant with a 95% plus or minus 6. So regardless of what the decision is today, I'd like to just thank the team for all the time that they put into it and truly thank you all for the amazing amount of transparency and public involvement that you put in to allowing the residents and the riders to even consider doing this.
Yes, sir.
And I would say from our standpoint, we appreciate the great work that's been done to make this possible, because this is very complicated. It is not easy, and it has still gotten a marvelous response from those who tested. So for us, it's a privilege to be enthusiastic about the results.
It really was a collaborative team effort. I'd be remiss but not mention all hard work and efforts that the board staff did. Thank you everybody in this room, those who were out with us. Special thanks to the Kelly Squad for all their hard work. We appreciate this.
Okay. Further questions or comments?
I just like it. This is so much smaller. I could, yeah, exactly. I can carry it around. It's awesome.
Okay. All right, this is an approval item.
Move to approve reconfiguration of Lakeland intercity routes.
Strongly second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 8.
Yes, we're at the end, because I know you turned into a pumpkin soon. So I'd like to thank you all that you just approved effectively the biggest change in the city of Lakeland public transit since the inception of the Citrus Connection. And our birthday was just on Saturday, right? 39 years.
Oh, wow.
So this is unarguably the biggest change since the voters passed the referendum. So thank you all very much. And we look forward to implementing the changes in October. First, it's very important and want to talk about driver safety. Our thoughts and prayers are with Operator Dunn in Hillsborough County in Hart and what had happened there. Mr. Canerium's here to answer any questions from a safety and security perspective that you have. But I wanted to let you know we have met with the TWU 525 that represents our drivers. There has been no request, nor do we anticipate a request for the driver shields that they are installing in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. Our operators at this point have not asked for that, nor has the union. The major difference between what we heard from the operators in Hillsborough And our methodology from a management perspective and safety perspective at the Citrus Connection is the incidence of verbal and physical abuse that the HART operators were describing as not being acted upon by the greater agency. At the Citrus Connection, we have what I would call almost heavy-handed approach. So we utilize law enforcement across the county. And if our drivers are especially physically assaulted, but even verbally assaulted, we will have you trespassed from the property. And that means not only our terminals, but it means the entire bus network. So that seems to be the biggest deterrent. As you know, Mr. Cheney is working on upgrading our modems to 4G modems and upgrading our video technology so that we'll be able to actually log into any vehicle within the county. So imagine a day, and we all know the first couple weeks of school, kids are going to be kids. Incident rates rise up a little bit. So imagine a day where an operator reports that there's some shenanigans on the bus, reports it to Bill's team, and Bill's team's actually able to log in, view the behavior, and if necessary, have law enforcement and or our terminal safety officers right there at the terminal to be able to deal with that. So we believe that continues to be the best deterrent is having a strong offense on that. So we'll keep you posted on that. Initially, it looked like it was a fare evasion issue. So we did talk to all of our operators that your lives are more important than a nickel or a dime. So just take the fare, report the information, and continue on. However, what we've learned at this point is it seems to have been more of a undiagnosed mental health issue with that particular operator. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with the family at heart, and we'll continue to make sure driver safety is important. Ms. Killebrew just met with the sheriff's office yesterday, Monday, thank you. Happy to announce that we've heard from Sheriff Judd that he is going to be changing the booking procedures at the South County Jail very shortly. So that will save him significant dollars, as his deputies will no longer be required to transport from the South County Jail back to the booking facility in Bartow. He'll now be able to work with us to provide a $1.50 pass to be able to get that person where they need to go. So we're excited for that. But Ms. Killebrew also had the opportunity to talk with the sheriff's office about implementing some de-escalation training that the sheriff's office uses in the law enforcement capacity and sharing that with our drivers and supervisors. So stay tuned for that. That would be great. I know Bill has asked that we look at de-escalation training for all of our operators, given what happened. I'd like to thank Ms. Thomas. She's here today, and I'm passing out a letter that we transmitted just yesterday. We have a tentative budget agreement with the staff for the county's transit service. The goal was to be at or below 2.66 million in the local funding. That would make up the approximate $2 million that the county contributed last year, and 0.66 million for the two new routes that the county had graciously allowed us to add on the east side of the county. That is the Lothman Flex route and the 27 Express route. We came in and met twice, and we are right now at 2.583, under the 2.66. So that's, to the best of my knowledge, what will be transmitted to the county. So thank you, Leanne, and your team for working with us on that. Avail will be here in July to give the board the follow-up on the remote reloading of the smart cards and the other technologies that were promised. So that will be an update that you all will receive in July. Avail will be flying in the day before the board meeting to meet with the senior leadership team. They'll be giving you a presentation at the July board meeting. And then we have asked them to take the latest flight out so they can meet with Mr. Mealy, our resident tech expert, to address any concerns that he has. I'd like to let the board know we are not going to get everything that we were promised. In some instances, we are going to get less. And in two important instances, we are going to be getting more. So we will keep you posted on that, but Avail will be here in July. And then finally, we did, after resolving or agreeing to the county budget for the next year, there is an ongoing challenge that we have with the county, something that we're looking into, and that is the pension liability and how the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District books its pension liability as a single enterprise fund. And so we've been meeting with Ms. Thomas and Dee Dee Wright at the clerk of the court's office. And they have asked us to look at how we book that pension liability and the possibility that that pension, from their perspective, that pension liability for the last few years should be returned to them to the tune of right around $500,000. Mr. Prasad and I met yesterday late in the afternoon around 3:00 via phone conference with our auditor. And our auditor feels that we have booked the pension liability right for a single enterprise fund with inflows and outflows. So our next step that we'd like to do is schedule a meeting with possibly the clerk of the courts and Leanne and Jim and staff to discuss that further. Our auditor effectively said that the county has 3 enterprise funds within the county budget, a utility, the utility, a wastewater and recycling, and a nursing home fund. And those pension liabilities, those enterprise funds, the pension liabilities are booked the same. So we'd like to look at, and Ms. Thomas disagrees. So we'd like to look at that, really get the auditors either on the phone or in the room together to discuss it, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important. So I wanted to make the board aware of that because it is an issue that regardless of the outcome, we feel you should be aware of. And I know Ms. Thomas said in our last meeting, she wanted to make the county commission aware of as well. So we continue to work on that.
So we have a potential $500,000 payable back to the county.
That is their position. Yes, sir.
That's why I said potential.
Yes, sir.
If I may, because we're a single enterprise fund, we have 3 modes, the LAMTA, the county, and the TD. We are consistently recognizing the liability in each one of the modes. If for some reason or the other, the TD and the county's pension liability is not reflected in those modes, then the district will have to pick up that liability from a policy point of view.
Any other questions on that issue? Because I'd like to drop back to Avail for a second.
I was going to get there when we got to the end of this
Right.
meeting. I want to know why, if we're not getting what we were promised.
And I'd like us to also have some breach of contract understanding. I'd like to know who their competitors are that are most aligned with being able to be replaced in some of those proposals. It's a thumbnail. We've been patient. We waited a year for this last time. And so I can tell you my fuse is like really short.
Yes, sir.
So we're on the same page.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. All right. Up next, Tom.
That was the end of my report. You have my May calendar. Again, I'm trying to keep it brief because I know that we lose our quorum. You have the ridership and universal access numbers as well. And so just to answer your question, Mayor Mutz, or to your statement, we will have all of that. We've asked Mr. Darby to look at that before. And so effectively, what we'll be presenting to you, or what they will be presenting to you, is that the actual physical reloading of the smart card remotely is not ready. It is my position statement that it may never come. However,
I think they've given us a year to show that your position
Right.
statement is well
Yes.
warranted.
However, what they are offering is what Mayor Mutz said after he got on the board, which was it's got to be on this. So what they are offering is turning on their e-purse option, which is what Mr. Mealy has wanted all along, which is the ability to effectively have a e-commerce back end to his particular account. It would still require him to physically go to a location to be able to reload the card, but he could have the different things that he wants and then provide us free of charge with another company the ability to buy the passes here, which is something that was not within the contract. So effectively, Commissioner McCarley, you'd be able to buy a Citrus Connection daily, weekly, or monthly pass on your phone, not interact with the Avail system at all. And then each day there would be an image. Let's say it's a swan because it's Lakeland for this particular day. And the driver would visually validate on your phone, okay, today's image is the swan. You have a weekly pass, the timer is running, and now you can get on and off the bus to be able to do that, not having to interact with the Avail system at all.
So would that be a QR code? Like
No,
the driver would click,
It's
show
a-
something?
What we've seen is it's a visual validation. So there's an image that's published every
Change.
single day that changes during the day. And then there's a timer that runs down and the image shifts. So you can't take a screenshot and show the driver a screenshot
Right.
of being able to do that. So the driver visually validates it. So we would need to communicate to the drivers each day, each morning, this is the image.
But is that timer, do you have location services on your phone so it knows that you're on the bus? Because then that runs data charges.
What you do is you activate the pass.
Uh-huh.
So you can buy the day pass whenever you want within the phone. And then Commissioner, when you get on the bus, then you start activating your 24 hours.
Okay.
So even when you close the app, the timer is still running. You open it back up, the driver can see you still have
I got
22
it.
minutes you can
Got
ride.
it.
The benefit to that system is that we would be able to roll out the smartphone app to our paratransit riders as well. So many of our paratransit riders, as you know, buy bulk paper passes for their family members. This way they could purchase 20, 30, 50 paratransit passes. And if the individual is able to use their phone, they're able to do that.
Well, if that were immediately implementable upon their
Right.
presentation in July, I'd be slightly interested.
It will. We've told them everything that is to be, I'm glad we're in the same vein. We've told them everything that needs to be presented to you in July must be live the day we show it to you. That will include the smartphone app.
Won't be any timeline.
Correct. That's what we told them.
We
It's
had
got to
that.
be live and it's got to be free. So what you'll be presented, and the staff, correct me if I'm wrong, is, Mr. Mayor, at no cost to us, Wi-Fi live on 4 buses. The smartphone app live and able to use. E-purse turned on and active to use. What was the 4th thing? Oh, text bus QR code. So all of the bus stops within all of Polk County at no charge would have a number, and you could text 321-123 and your bus stop number, and it will text you the next time the bus arrives. All of it live, all of it free. What that does not deliver is the ability to take your smart card and reload it over the phone without being able to touch anything, which is what the initial promise was. The replacement for that they're offering is the smartphone app, which we never had in a contract.
Tim,
Well, will the initial agreement need to be amended to guarantee those free services throughout the term of the agreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I could go copy that. that'd be
Yes. That needs to be drafted before the July board meeting as well.
Thank you.
So I don't think that the Metro DC cards can be reloaded. Those smart cards I can't go on when I take the students to DC every year and reload online anymore. I used to be able to do that. Now I have to go and physically stand there and reload 15 cards
Right.
at a time. So is that what we're talking about here?
Yes. So the
Capability to do that? Because I would think if DC can't do that, then I don't know that we could.
it never could, Commissioner McCarley, and that's what happened. We presented a $688,550 solution to the board. And we had a live demonstration of what it could do. And then Commissioner Hall asked, can I remotely reload it?
Mhm.
And the answer was yes, from their sales team. Commissioner Hall, I remember it, then asked, wow, if you can do that, wouldn't it be great if you could just swipe your debit card on the bus and reload your card right there?
Mhm.
And we all took a step back and said, no, we don't want drivers with debit cards. And we weren't anticipating that question. And we kind of said, Commissioner Hall, can you back off that?
Right.
But the answer from Avail was yes, that it could be done. So the board approved
Moving forward.
the purchase moving forward based on what was said. I can't say whether the board would have approved or not had Commissioner Hall not asked that question. So the issue is there, and again, I'm not a tech guy, but there's an RFID chip in the
Smart card,
card.
yeah.
So how you would be able to reload that without touching something
Right.
to do it doesn't make sense that you'd
Have to
ever
have a
be able to
read
do
write
that.
somewhere. Right.
However, as the mayor said, if this is live, to me, that's, as a transit professional, that's better than being able to remotely reload your card, because you don't even need to have the physical card. You can just use your phone. And then to Mr. Mealy's point, if you turn on e-purse for the users like Mr. Mealy, you can add as many pass types as you want instead of just the 2 that he currently has, which is the flexibility he's looking for. And then the free Wi-Fi on the 4 buses is a sweetener they're throwing in. But again, it's not exactly what we were promised.
Tom, I hate to make this request based on a contract that we entered into with an outside agency and give our staff additional work. But what I would like to see is what was entered into in the contract. Here's a list of them. What we're not going to get and the value of those things. And now what we are going to get and the value of those things, along with the monetary value. I want to know what the actual value is going to be in the use of the things. That's the trade-off. What are we giving up? I mean, obviously we wanted those things. What are we giving up? And what are we getting? And what is the use value and what is the monetary value so that we can make that decision?
Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
may reach out to Ms. Thomas and Mr. Freeman. I remember they did an excellent presentation on the costs and benefits when the trash service was changed, and it was kind of pros and cons and costs. And so I may ask them for that, and we'll follow that template.
Yes. All right. I hate to ask staff
No,
to do that. It's hours of work for us or someone else's inaction. So, all right. Anything else? Yes, sir. All right. Anything from the board? Legal?
Sir, thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. No, I don't.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Yes, so moved.
All right.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. I thought you had something.